Did I do it? Oh, there it goes. Yeah. All right. All right. Hi, welcome back. My name is Johnna Waldon. I'm the assistant branch manager here at the Tates Creek Branch Library. I am also the past president of the Kentucky Genealogical Society, and I'm the current vice president of the Scott County Genealogical Society. And I have taken numerous courses, week-long events. I've been to some of the national conferences. So I do a lot of genealogy. And cemeteries are my jam. I love a good cemetery. On the handout is my contact information. Give me a shout or stop by the branch. And if you are watching a recording, feel free to email me, contact me if you should need, or just call the branch here at Tates Creek. Okay. Cracking the code, cemetery symbolism. I'm what you call a tapophile, also known as a tombstone tourist, also a cemetery tourist. In the background there is the gate to the family cemetery down in Pooler, Tennessee. My husband is African American. This is a old cemetery down there. Unfortunately, back in the late 40s, early 50s, the minister didn't like how it was laid out. And he didn't tell anybody, brought a bulldozer in and leveled the cemetery. And the families were out there with sticks trying to find the headstones. So a lot of the history is lost. There are no records of the cemetery anymore, except for the ones buried since. Okay. The Association for Gravestone Studies. I told you I go to conferences. This is a conference that I go to yearly. Um, it is more academic than popular. The book here is their annual publication. But if you go to their website and go to Knowledge Center, there are many years, 50, 60, 70 years of their publications, which have so much information about cemeteries and preservation and the history and why a cemetery looks like it is. Okay. So, what can a headstone and a cemetery tell us from a genealogical standpoint? Obviously, it's going to give us a name, a nickname, maybe, perhaps, date of birth, date of death, birthplace sometimes. Sometimes it will tell us the religion. Sometimes there will be emblems that will give you associations, organizations that will add more flavor to our ancestors' lives. Cause of death. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask while we're going along. Don't hold them. Military service is very common. Occupation, social economic status. Oh, I've got cause of death in there twice. Sometimes it will list spouses and children and grandchildren. I have seen headstones that have the whole family genealogy, family history on the back of the tombstone. Sometimes it will put the secret family recipe. I've seen some with like grandma's secret fudge that has been carved onto the back of the headstones. Sometimes it will list parents, siblings, and sometimes you'll be able to tell about hobbies. That being said, people fib. I don't want to say they lie, but they do fib. And birth dates, names, remember, dates were fluid before 1900, and sometimes it's a good guess. They were born in the summer of, it was the blizzard of, so they might not know. And mistakes happen. Headstones are expensive and they don't have the money to carve a new one. And sometimes you can tell that a stone has been repaired because it's chipping out and you'll be able to see what was carved underneath. Okay. Okay. Cemeteries, types of cemeteries. Church cemeteries. Today, cemetery, graveyard are used interchangeably. Church cemeteries are usually called a churchyard or a graveyard. A cemetery is more of a public place. But today we use the term interchangeably. And don't forget, churches often change names, they change denominations. So you can't quite rely on that being your ancestors' lives religion. If you go to a church today and they died 120 years ago, you need to know the history of that church to figure out what their religion was so you can go and look for those records. Okay. Public cemeteries. I called the city of Lexington. They could not tell me if there are any city-owned cemeteries, but they are public cemeteries that they are owned by the city. Okay. You have private cemeteries ran by a corporation, usually for profit, usually large, very large. Lexington Cemetery is absolutely gorgeous, but it is a private cemetery. Okay. And if you haven't driven through in the springtime when everything is blooming, you need to do that. Even go now. There are maps. We do have a walking tour. Can you run out there to the Lexington, Heather? Can you run out there to the Lexington, the Kentucky and get those walking maps? There's one of Lexington Cemetery on there. Sorry, I just thought about that. Um, there are several walking tours on our Kentucky Room page, including a walking tour of Lexington Cemetery. And yes, just Lexington Cemetery at this point. Okay. And right across the street from Lexington Cemetery, people don't seem to realize that they are two different cemeteries, but you've got Lexington Cemetery on this side of Leestown, and on this side, you have Calvary, and that is the Catholic cemetery. One of the most potent funerals I had ever been to. It was at 6:30 in the morning. It was absolutely gorgeous. The fog was coming in. They did a 21 gun salute. And just about the time the minister started, a train came through blowing its whistle. It was still tear up thinking about it today. But it is. Belle Breezing is buried there in a little teeny tiny, unassuming headstone. Okay. Memorial Gardens. They have no character. They just, they're blah. And I'm sorry. They serve their purpose. They are easy to maintain. They are flat. The headstones are all flat, but they don't have any character. And the headstones don't have enough room to provide you much information. Okay. This is Louisville Memorial. And if you guys want copies of this PowerPoint, just let me know. More types of cemeteries. Lodge cemeteries, fraternal organizations. This is the Independent Order of Odd Fellows in Phoenix, Arizona. And they have a gate to let you know that it's the Odd Fellows. This one is up in Stamping Grounds, and it's a Masonic cemetery. So that would give you more places to go and look for information about your ancestors, to look for organizational memberships, if they had a role, what they did. secret societies aren't nearly as secret as they used to be, and records are becoming more and more open. It's Heather, I think. Oh, she brought all kinds of good stuff for you. Yeah. All right. Another cemetery in town is the African Cemetery #2, also called the Cemetery of the Union Benevolent, but I can never say that word, Society #2. It is #2. There is not a #1. It's #2 because it was the Society #2. The Society #1 did not have a cemetery associated with it. So that's why we have a African Cemetery #2. Okay. And this is down on 7th Street. Hey, oh, hey, Joe. And if you ever get a chance, if you're doing something, you need to watch a little history. Google 8 Acres of History, Lexington African Cemetery #2. I don't know how old it is, but the library did a documentary on the cemetery and about the history, how the cemetery was abandoned for many, many years, and how the businesses around it um, just sort of absorbed some of the cemetery. So what you see today is just a very small portion of the cemetery that was original. Okay. 8 Acres of History. We used to have it on DVD, but we don't have it anymore. It's probably 10 years old at least. With COVID, I lost so many years, like 3 years of time. So yeah. Okay. Now, if you are me and you grow up in the mountains of Virginia, this is the family cemetery. So this is my aunt's house up in the valley. She owns 27 acres on top of the mountain. And if you squint, this is the family cemetery back here. You never know where you will find a cemetery. Um, Another lecturer who lived down on 3rd Street found a little family cemetery in her backyard under some brush that she was cleaning out. And I think she found 3 headstones. So you just never know. Okay, this is the new family cemetery. This is the old family cemetery. In 1917, my grandfather bought all this land and meets and bounds. I'll do the land lecture this fall. But if you look right there, that is the old family cemetery. And even with all that horse pasture around, that cemetery is closed. There is no more room to bury anybody. We lost the land several years ago, and that cemetery is enclosed by a fence, and there's no way to expand it, which is kind of sad. Unless you're cremated. But my grandparents are up there. All my grandmother's brothers and sisters are up there. Um, it's almost a cliff. That the little road right here that you go up is a single wide hug the cliff, so you don't fall down. But I love it up there. Okay, military cemeteries. Very well planned, very well laid out, very, again, very potent, very emotional. And if you are a service person, your spouse and your dependent children can also be buried there, but they are going to stack you. You are one on top of each other. Camp Nelson is there. A lot of the cemeteries have military sections. Do you know how to tell the difference between a Confederate headstone and a Union headstone? Unions are round and Confederates are pointed. So. I don't think so. It has been a number of years since I've been out there. And they will often list military rank, any special service awards. If you go to do I have it there? No, I do not have it there. I would have to look it up. If you Google military headstones, you will get several pages of awards and ranks and what those mean. Okay. Yes. Dependent children. Mhm.
Okay, what about second and third wives?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess if the first wife was died before and they had planned, I don't know if they would just go a little.
Insurance.
No. Oh, interesting. I don't know.
If they don't get the social security.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Second.
I don't know the answer to that. I will call. I have a friend who does 21 gun salutes for military person. It's a volunteer organization through one of the lodges here in town, the Honor Guard. And I will call and see if he knows that answer. Unless you have John's email and you could text him. Okay. All right. Topics for another day. This house are protecting headstones. So I am completely intrigued why you would build a house over the headstone. And those are low. Those are like hip high. So they're not intended for you to go inside. They're just there to protect the stone and you can look inside. I don't know. I don't know if they were originally designed to keep wild animals from getting in or to protect the stone from the weather. It was just very interesting. Now, the second picture is the Cox Grave House over in Lee County. And the family lost 4 small children over a 20-year span. So they have built this house and over the stones and have added chairs and trinkets. And I saw a box fan in there for, I guess, the grieving family to go in. You know, everybody grieves differently, and this is how that family did that. But it's intriguing. Grave houses in Louisiana is this one. And yes, that's on my bookcase if you ever want to snag it. Okay. Right. Okay. Think Victorian England when you have grave robbers, because that was the only way for the doctors to learn. These are called mort safes, and they were put over a fresh grave, and it would stay there until the body had decomposed enough so it wouldn't be of any use to the grave robbers. And then they would pull them up. But in some cases, they left them. So you've got these wire brackets, you've got a concrete sitting over top of the wire, and then just sort of a cage over top of them. So
It's interesting today in the news, they've arrested people, I guess it was Harvard or Yale, one of those two schools, for selling body parts. Yeah, they worked in the medical division of the school. And
you
that
just,
was going to jail,
well,
selling body parts.
from what I remember, it was not a crime to steal bodies, but it was a crime to steal what they were buried with. If they had jewelry and stuff, that's where you would get in trouble. Okay. Do you guys know where the term graveyard shift comes from? Okay. Before modern medicine, they were never quite sure if you were dead. And they would, in this picture, they have a tube going up so you could yell, "Hey, I'm not dead," or put a string around your finger going up to a bell. And those would stay there for a few days just to make sure. And they would have people roaming the cemetery at night listening for the bell. Graveyard shift. Uh-huh.
Show you. They have someone stay with the body.
Awake.
They say some prayers. They're with the body all night.
Very much an Irish. Mhm.
It's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
They're with bodies.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought it up is this one book that I read, and Heather is familiar with the book. It's called Caste. They would assign duties like that to the lowest of the low to watch the body. And unfortunately, that's the way it came down. They'd have the lowest of the low watch the bodies.
Are you guys, I don't have a slide for it, but are you familiar with the concept of sin, S-I-N, eaters? Yeah. Mhm. It's very much the same. They would have the poorest person in the community would come and eat a meal off of the top of the casket, and that would eat the sins of the deceased away so that they would be able to get into heaven. So, come in. So, yeah. So, different cultures have different things. Okay. All right. So, types of headstones. We talked about in memorial gardens. These are the flat stones. There's not a whole lot of room for anything. You guys missed that part. I'm not a big fan of memorial gardens because everything is flat and there's not any character to them. That's my personal opinion, not the library's opinion. There is very little room there. Beloved son, brother, and father, Arthur E. Meadows, and the date of death and the birth date and death date. Okay. They're easy to maintain. You can sweep over it with the lawnmower. You're not going to risk damaging anything, breaking a stone or anything. Going back to fibs, this is my father. His obituary misspelled my name and my sister's name. So always verify your information. Okay. This is a ledger. Most of the time, they're going to have just a little bit of height. Most of the time, they're going to be flat, but sometimes they're going to be a little more like knee high and have a pitch to them. So it's just different styles there. Okay. A lot of these pictures are from my own collection. My phone is filled with pictures of cemeteries. I have very few family pictures. They're all headstones. Okay. This is my grandmother's grandmother up there at the old family cemetery, and Polly Dotson. And if you look super close, you will see a dove there in the center. And she died in 1926. And that's called a tablet or an upright. And these are probably the most common ones you will see. Very inexpensive for the time, easy to get. And we will talk about where they were able to purchase headstones in just a second. Pedestals, usually on a big base and usually straight up. Sometimes they will have information on all four sides. Sometimes it will represent a family with a different person information on each side. This one here has a full rose, and we'll talk about that in just a second. A full rose means a long life, while a little tight bud usually signifies a younger person, a child, somebody in their teens. Okay. Yes. Not so much this one, but this was done in the late 1800s, and you will see a lot of Egyptian influences on headstones from that time period. You often see headstones that are shaped like boulders with scrolls on them. Sometimes you will see boulders with just meaning a solid foundation, with a cross on top there. Sometimes you will see gargantuan. This one must be at least 40 feet tall in Frankfurt Cemetery. And they have a square base and they go up to a point. Most of the time, they're huge. But this one was in Mayfield. They were tiny. They probably didn't come any taller than 3 feet. So there's always exceptions to the rules. Okay. This cemetery did get hit by the tornadoes last year. I have not been back to see what kind of damage it was done. We'll talk about the Woolridge procession in a few minutes, and I was told it survived intact. Again, Frankfurt Cemetery. Okay, when you go to cemeteries, look for the guys on the lawnmowers to ask questions. Yes. Or the old men at Hardee's. Ask them, if you're out in the country, that's who you want to talk to. I asked them where the remains were, and they said they were not above ground level, that they were underground. These were just false crypts. But sometimes they could be in the boxes. Back at the family cemetery, we do have one of these, and he is buried inside above ground. Think New Orleans, where the water table is so high, the remains are often above ground. Actually, all of Louisiana. Okay. This is a Victorian flower bed. And sometimes the bed rails will be solid. And then sometimes they will be little decorative stones. Sometimes they will be metal railings. And remember that beautiful fence. At one time, a beautiful fence. It's still beautiful today, but it needs some serious attention. Okay. All right. Where did they get their headstones? Sears and Roebuck. And this is where you get your headstones from. And they also sold fencing. And if you guys want any of these, I can pass them around or stop after class. That's how they got their start, selling headstones. And not to be outdone, does everybody remember Montgomery Wards? They soon followed with their own cemetery headstones and fencing. Archives.org, that's where I got this one. I didn't update those prices. Yeah. 1902 headstones going for $8.95 to $173. May of 22, $1 equaled $30. So times that by 30. So headstones were expensive. And they would have sayings, so you got to pick out your style and you would pick out your number of what you wanted it to say, and then you got a few lines to customize it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cemetery, are there
Is that an uncommon thing? They just happen to be. I always thought that the Lexington Cemetery had a monument company with it too, but
There
I.
used to be one on the corner of Newtown and Leestown, but I don't know if it's,
So,
but yeah,
but across the street. it's like-
still be one. Mhm. No. And headstones today are outrageous,
Yeah,
even for the simplest ones.
there are also charges to, you have to pay the cemetery to let them come in,
Mhm.
the headstone people will come in and set up their equipment and
Mhm.
edge and
Yep.
stuff. So it's big business.
And there's Montgomery Ward. Okay, so when you're looking at headstones, you're likely to come across the term consort. Doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that they died before the spouse. And usually you'll see it on the wife stone, that she was the consort of because she was still living when he passed away. Sometimes you will, other way around. The wife has died, so you will see consort. Relic is when the wife survives the husband and she didn't remarry. A relic, not very nice. Yes. Um, Sometimes you will see FO, father of, MO, mother of, DO, daughter of, and SO for son of. Okay.
No, I saw these.
No, that's okay. Play nice. Okay. So, motifs. Stones are so interesting and they differ so much. With the motifs, they change over time. They change from region to region. So you have to look at them from a historical eye. And sometimes it's just because that's what they picked and it has no meaning whatsoever. Okay? So, doves, Holy Spirit, Christianity, innocence, purity. Um, the one here has a bud in its mouth. Um, Open bud means a longer life. Tight bud means a shorter life. When I looked at Father Jose's, first thing I thought of was he was a priest. That's what I went to. But no, that's the stone he picked out. And I ask this every class because people swear they see two doves on his stone. I see one dove, but everybody sees two except for me. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. That whole purple and green, or what was that thing that went around on Facebook? Yeah. 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 But here is his wife, who has a completely different style stone. But I thought that was pretty as well. Okay. All right. So here is a dove sitting on a baby's headstone. It's got the rock base with the scroll on it. My little boy, Clay Smith Hawkins, born August 2nd, 1882, died the 24th April, 1887. And that one is up in Frankfurt. And you can see the bud there. And remember, I said buds mean closed buds, but that one is a little bit more open. So again, there's some rhyme and reason, but not a whole lot of rhyme and reason. This is why I need to go back to Cave Hill. I have been looking for a butterfly in the wild in a cemetery for years and have never found one. The butterfly represents the three stages of life. The caterpillar is life, the chrysalis is death, and the butterfly is the resurrection. Okay. The guide at Cave Hill says there is one there, but I haven't been able to find it. You will see a lot of lambs on headstones. Unfortunately, over time, a lot of them have lost their heads, or have just crumbled, so you just sort of vaguely get the outline of a lamb. Okay. Military headstones. You'll often see an eagle on them. Roosters, repentance. The Association for Gravestone Studies a few years back did a story on this woman that had been an outcast in this town she grew up with, and she loved chickens, and the town was so mean and horrible to her that now the town folk come and leave chicken items on her headstone. It's very common practice to leave trinkets, coins, rocks as you go to cemeteries to show your loved ones that you have been there. Okay. Frog, sin, lion, the power of God. This style of stone is much more common today. I'm seeing them all over, and I've got some doozies for you in a little bit. Weeping willows, various trees, the weeping willow, sorrow, apples, sin, that's pretty obvious. Crocuses, youthfulness, ferns, sorrow, figs, eternal life, morning glories, the resurrection. You cannot kill a morning glory. In the blue handout, that is the Cave Hill Guide to Symbolism. All kinds of information in there, very well done. Okay. It's, um, yeah, I, you know, yeah, no, bad people, the whole religious thing about unbaptized babies, yeah. There we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. We are Southern. We do not speak evil of the dead, even if they were a serial killer kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Even if they,
But you'll put it.
and then you'll put it up on your, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of trees in cemeteries. Um, I do not believe this is a Woodman of America. I think this is just a stump that the father liked or the family liked. Stumps are usually a life cut short. And again, this one has a teeny tiny bud on it. Forget-me-nots, flowers, a lot of flowers, wheat symbolizing long life. If it's gathered in a bundle, new life, resurrection, reincarnation. You don't see these much in Kentucky. These are very much a New England headstone, the death's head. I have several, like I said, I'm big into cemeteries. I have several castings of these around the house. My husband buys me them for Christmas. It's just weird, I know. And he buys me t-shirts that say Tapophile on them too. I also have one that says I seek dead people that I have to remember not to wear to the hospital, but yeah. Um, uh, okay. Angels, love the angels. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so don't blink. Um, huge, huge, huge. I love this one. The Angel of Grief, done in 1894. This one, I'm surprised it has stayed intact, that the wings haven't broken off. Sorrow. I think this is the cowboy boots one. No, I did have one where she was wearing cowboy boots. Yeah. This one in Arlington. My family, if you go to Eastern Kentucky, you go over the mountain into Virginia, and my family is from that area. These were taken in Clintwood. cemetery straight up. And sometimes there will be smaller angels just carved into the top of them. Angel in flight, carrying you to heaven. Always thought this one was interesting. A lot of beds. Deceased at rest. Sometimes you'll see baby beds, baby cribs, baby cradles to represent little ones. There's a few cases where people have been buried in their car, whether they wanted to be or not. The mob. Okay. Anchors. You're anchored to Christianity, your beliefs. Sometimes it's just because you were a sailor and you wanted to have an anchor on your headstone. You never know. This one is a cross with an anchor. Let's sort of cut it off. The anchor coming this way. Hearts. Hearts are big on headstones. The human heart, love for God or another person, a flaming heart, extreme religion. Sometimes a crown representing Christ. This one has a little bit of everything. It's got the cross, it's got the anchor, and it's got the flaming heart there for you. Okay. This one also has the flowers, and it's a little hard to tell, but it's also got a flaming heart with a cross behind it there, and a sword piercing the heart. Yes. Okay. Hands are very popular on headstones, pointing the way to heaven or breaking the chains of life. And sometimes they are pulling you to heaven, or someone is greeting you in heaven. So if you look at the rigid hand, that is the person that has passed away. They have a roughly cuff. So that's the wife. This is the husband's hand, and he is grasping it. So he is welcoming her or pulling her to heaven. And you see that, that's a little harder to read, but you see the one that's grasping, more roughly cut there. I can't tell from that one. Torches, upside down torches, life's snuffed out. This one has a little bit of everything. It's got the big square face. It's got the urn. Remember I said Egyptian influences. It's got the drapery for mourning to show that you are grieving. It's got the bundle of wheat there to show a long life. They died in 1924 and 1921, which is a little bit late for the Egyptian period, but you still see urns that late. Again, another one with an urn on top. Now this one is kind of, it's interesting. We won't say weird. You would think that had been vandalized. No, that's how that was designed. The column for a life that's broken. Okay. All right. Organizations. Some of the emblems that you will see on the headstones. The ancient Egyptian Arabic order of noble mystics, also known as the Shriners. The Masons. You have to be a Mason to be a Shriner, right? I think. I don't think it's the other way around. Okay. He was a member of both. That one, if you look really close, you will see the Mason symbol there. And I thought the Eastern Star was for women of spouses of people who belong to the Masonic order. But no, it can be a man or a woman, which I thought was very interesting. Yes. I didn't know that. Sorry. But I read an obituary recently, and I've seen several obituaries where the Eastern Star have been males.
One of my ancestors founded Eastern Star.
Cool.
His name is Rob Morris. He was buried in Oldham County. So I just found out months ago.
See, this is me.
No idea.
Do genealogy.
I did go to summer camp. I was not sponsored by Eastern Star. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. It's on the beach.
Oh, you saw that? Oh.
Do you have any men in your group?
Yes, we do.
See, I just assumed maybe it was more historical. The women were the Eastern Stars, but yeah.
Because women can't be masons.
Yeah.
Right. But
Well,
men and women can.
In this country.
But in other countries, Germany, places, I'm sorry.
No, this is how we learn. Yeah. So you've got Mason and you've got the Order of the Eastern Star there. Woodman of the World was an insurance company in turn of the century, late 1890s, early 1900s. If it's that turn of the century, not the current turn of the century. It was an insurance company, and you would pay your money, and depending on how much you gave them, you would get one of these headstones. But then they figured out that they were going to go broke if they kept giving people headstones this elaborate. So then they would sell you the plans, and you would take it to your local headstone monument place, and they would build one. So if you see these are usually Woodmen of America. And this is huge. This is probably a good 20 feet tall. Frankfurt Cemetery. And this one has the emblem on it. That one is in Mayfield. There's my husband hiding behind the monument and his mama. Okay. Sometimes they will have emblems on them. This is from the Rebecca group. Friendship, Love, Trust. Independent Order of Odd Fellows. And I was like, wait, no, it's not. Don't mess with me. More chains, and that one was on the Woodman of the World monument there. Okay. Interesting headstones that might make you say, why? I love this one. They put the family farm on the headstone. Okay. And here's some other examples. Church, walking to the church, an ocean scene, beach scene, and a country road. This one is Angelo and his family standing on a balcony. Sometimes you just have to say, yes. The Hiawatha, Kansas, Davis Memorial. He was a wealthy man until his wife passed away. And he spent the family fortune building 7 groupings of him and his wife in various stages of their life and put it all under this roof. And I would love to go see this one. Yes, sir.
Section carved out areas.
This guy reclining in the bed with his wife, he invented the pigeon lamp. It was a non-exploding gas lamp. You know, I'm all for a good nap, but I don't know if I would want to spend eternity in a four-poster bed. This is in Paris, but it's actually gorgeous. Um, this is the Woolridge Monument, also known as the Strange Procession that never moved. The guy on the horse, before he passed away, he was a horse breeder, and he decided he was going to have this monument made to himself. So you've got his mama and 1, 2, 3, 4 sisters in the back. You've got his horse. You've got a couple of dogs. You've got a deer. You do have his horse. I don't know if I said that. And then you've got his brothers walking in front of him. And again, this one was in Mayfield, and it survived the tornadoes. And there's a few close-ups of the monument there. That's him. Uh-huh.
Oh, no, the person on the pedestal, who is that supposed to be?
I think that's just another one of him. No, I'm powerful. I have the money. I can do this. Let's see if it tells me. Henry Woolridge Monument, 18 life-size statues of humans and animals, including his horse named Bop and 2 dogs, Towhead and Bob, crammed into a 17 by 33-foot plot. His mom, his brothers, his sisters, 2 of his nieces. His father was left out because he left his mama when Henry was a boy. You see family drama even then. Another legend is he only included relatives who were already dead. Yeah, that is from Wikipedia, and it's very pretty. Okay, this one was the general superintendent of the railway mail service during President Grant's service. And if you look super close, you will see the stairs going up and over the bridge. You'll see the railroad tracks coming off the back of the train. And if we had a front view, you would be able to see the wheels of the carriage. Okay. You know, this is kicking somebody's butt, or, you know, yes. Catholic woman married to a Protestant husband. They weren't allowed to be buried in the same, so they're holding hands for eternity over the church fence. Okay. So I love that one. Okay. And that's in the Netherlands. These weren't so much why, but I just thought these were pretty. These were mausoleums in Cave Hill. I didn't have any place else to stick them. So it is, if you're ever over in Louisville, drive through the cemetery. It is absolutely gorgeous. These were again in Cave Hill, a baby in a clamshell, a baby laying on a bed. Not so much to say why, but just I didn't have a place. Now this is one to say why. This thing is 30 feet tall, and it's huge. And they have nothing to do with a ball. I don't know why. Special monument to the Kimball family operated the Kimball sawmill. So I don't know why that, but they did. And that is in Metropolis.
Know that.
You know that?
That-
Yes.
that-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Hollywood Cemetery. The one in Cleveland. James Garfield
Yeah.
there, and he's got it looks like Washington DC, and it got a great temple like, and he's down, and you go in and actually see it. He's laid out in there. And I'm sitting in a big chair. It's incredible. Rockefeller, the obelisk for him. It's quite an attraction in Cleveland, the Cleveland Cemetery.
I don't know. There's one in that part of the state where they have huge fundraisers. They have fairs and events and dining and all kinds of good family fun inside the cemetery. This was another interesting one. You walk up these 3 stairs to this platform, and I think there's 6 family members buried there. And for the last one, maybe he liked Jaws. I don't know. But yeah. So
So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. That is it for me. The bibliography is on this. There is a PBS KET documentary that airs every once in a while called The World's Greatest Cemeteries. If you can catch that. I wish he spent a little more time talking about the headstones than the people in them, but that's just because I like headstones and not necessarily the background. But very interesting. He did one on Cave Hill this season. So, yeah. So walk through a cemetery. Remember your ancestors.
One of my very favorite cemeteries is in Key West, Florida. And on one of the headstones, and I've got a picture of it someplace, I told you I was sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We said she could put on her headstone, she could, because we got to choose, but.
Yep.
the mother always had those great sayings. Going to the funeral, she said, well, if you don't go to yours, if you don't go to theirs, then I can go to yours. We all trying to look at it. Okay. We got it.
These in the forest headstones out in Hamburg.
There are, from the Walmart, there's a little horse cemetery there.
Just Sir Barton and the stores there, like the Walmart and Lowe's, so you get out of the wall.
Mhm.
Otherwise you can't see it. Yeah, yeah.
If I can get back to it.
Some of the cemeteries you showed, and I've seen it with my ancestors too, but it just has their initials.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know if that was a trend? Like, was that a trend for a while?
I'm-
Was it like a saved money thing or
I'm pretty sure it's probably a cost savings measure.
like the first, it'll be the first 2 initials and then their last name.
Before you walk away, find a grave. Okay, there are 2 fabulous websites. The first one that I use quite often is called Find a Grave. John, Dingus,
Kennedy Place, just Kentucky.
international, all over. Right. So I have collaborated with 3 cousins. We have never met in person. This is my grandfather that I was named after. It gives his birth date, his death date. Remember, you're going to verify all this information. It tells you the name of the cemetery. This is the old family cemetery, Hibbett's Cemetery in Hibbett's Gap. It has his obituary, and then it has links to his mom and dad, his siblings, find a grave, and my grandmother. Brownie, Uncle Brownie from last lecture, it has not passed away, but first wife's headstone, so he has his name on her headstone, and somebody has just decided that he has passed away as well, but that is not the case. And then you can click on these and it will take you to Grandpa Luther. And again, it will give you information, and you can go in, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, This one, it was created by Mitch, who is also a cousin. And if I wanted to support, control this website, I could email Mitch and say, hey, this is my great grandfather. Can I have that memorial? And he could say yay or nay. There was a huge debate. This has become a game for people who try to get, I do have a page, but I'll click on Mitch. He has added 2,000 memorials. There are people that have added 1,000,000. They're looking for as many as they can.
Is there a charge?
No. This is done by me and you walking out into cemeteries and mowing the road, taking pictures of the stones and uploading them. Okay. There is also a billion billion graves. Sorry, just billion graves. Now, find a grave, you do not need a picture of the stone. Billion, you do need a picture of the stone. I have not looked here. And no, it does not have my grandfather, mostly because you can't find this cemetery unless it's a family cemetery. You would never know it was on top of that mountain. Okay. Mhm.
To put information in, find a grave.
Right.
Sometimes some of the folks, staff at Lexington Public Library sometimes go do that.
Yes.
Is that something that's open to the public
Mhm.
to take part in? How would they find that information?
Okay. Fayette County does not have a genealogical society. For a town this large, we have not had one in 20 years. And there was a group of us that tried to start one, and then the pandemic hit. Trying to start a society in the middle of a pandemic does not quite work. So we were walking around in cemeteries, social distancing, walking through cemeteries. If you contact me, I can put you on the mailing list for our genealogy email distribution. And it tells you about events, about classes that are being held here and down at the Kentucky room. But if you'd like to be on that list, just let me know. Okay. David Bryant is the one that controls the list. Okay.
We got email address and name.
Sure. I don't think I brought in pen and paper. Yeah.
Who's on the cast list to write?
Yeah. Anybody else wants to be on it? Okay.
To
Go ahead.
close down our recording.
All right.
We can,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.